Today we begin our discussion on abbreviated new drug applications, which is the last topic that we will deal in the coursework of regulatory affairs. Before we talk about the abbreviated new drug application, we'll first discuss the historical background that led to the process of ANDAs. So in 1938, US Congress enacted the Federal Drug and Cosmetics Act. Pre-market notification was required for new drugs. Drugs were required to be tested in humans for safety with the IND regulations, and also that a new drug application be submitted. So important thing here is that there used to be a pre-market notification. There was no approval per se, but only a pre-market notification. Post 1938, FDA also began to permit generic versions of drugs which were generally recognized as safe. So the new drugs which were introduced into the market, if they were found to be safe over the period of usage, then they were generally recognized as safe, and only for those drugs generic versions were allowed. In 1962, there was a thalidomide tragedy, and the pre-market notification was changed to pre-market approval. So earlier it was only a notification which was required to be given to the US FDA, but then it was changed to approval. So you had to now obtain a pre-market approval before you could bring your product into the market. There was another change that not just the evidence of safety, but that of effectiveness was also required. And because of this thalidomide tragedy, retrospectively, all new drug applications approved between 1938 and 1962. 1938 was when the Federal Drug and Cosmetic Act was introduced, and 1962 was the thalidomide tragedy. So all the NDAs that were approved between this period were again reviewed for effectiveness, and FDA withdrew approvals of some of the new drug applications, of which many were generic drug copies, because there was no separate process for generic drugs or ANDA. So they also used to be approved through a new drug application pathway. FDA concluded that generic products would be considered as new drugs and would have their own approved new drug application process. So till this time, there was nothing like an abbreviated new drug application pathway. And even for introducing the generic product, the company had to conduct clinical trials to bring the generic product into the market. In 1970, FDA instituted ANDA process for generic versions of pre-1962 pioneer drugs using evaluations of the drug efficacy study implementation program. However, no process was suggested for post-1962 drugs. Also, till that time, information contained in IND and NDA was considered as confidential, and hence generic manufacturers could not use that data to justify their application. Now, in the current scenario, the ANDA players use the clinical data which was generated by the innovator companies for the approval of their ANDA applications. However, earlier all the clinical data that was submitted by the new drug application company was considered as confidential, and hence generic manufacturers could not use that data to justify their application. In 1982, FDA allowed approval of post 1962 drugs under its paper NDA policy. Data could be sourced from well-controlled studies published in the literature. However, data was not available for many drugs. And during this period, it was not cost effective to develop the generic versions of post 1962 drugs, because you were supposed to conduct costly clinical trials even for the generic drugs. And from 1962 to 1984, only about 1 in 10, which means only 10% of the off-patent drugs were subject to competition from the generic drugs. What this means is that only for 10% of the drugs, there were generic versions available. For rest of the 90%, only the innovator company was selling the product in the market. This obviously would reduce the competition and would increase the cost of the product in the market. So in 1984 came the Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act, which is also called as Hatch-Waxman Act, which proposed the ANDA procedure. Concept of therapeutic equivalence was introduced. So these are the names of two senators, Hatch and Waxman. So these are their surnames. And these were the two people who had formulated or created this act called as Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act. US Congress also directed the Patent Office to restore patent life for an innovator drug or a pioneer drug up to 5 years in order to compensate for the time lost during the FDA process. So there used to be an extension of the patent beyond the 20 years period, because sometimes lengthy process was followed by the US FDA to review the application. And during this review, a lot of time was wasted from the patent term of the innovator company. So to compensate for that lost time due to the regulatory process, they started this process of patent term restoration, where the pioneer drug patent can be extended up to 5 years in order to compensate for the time lost during the FDA process. Another important aspect that was introduced as a result of the Hatch-Waxman Act is called as Bolar exemptions. Bolar is a name of a company, Bolar Pharmaceuticals, and there was a court case between the innovator company Roche versus Bolar Pharmaceuticals company. Bolar is a generic company. So Bolar exemptions also introduced, thus facilitating entry of the generic drugs. And what were the provisions of the Bolar exemption? That it permitted use of patented invention for development work and submission of the information to FDA. Now, what it actually means is earlier when the generic companies were developing a generic product, during the patent life of the innovator product, the innovator companies used to object to that they have violated our patent, because during the patent life they have started developing the product. Now this thing went to the court in this famous case called Roche versus the Bolar Pharmaceuticals, and the court gave a judgment that by developing the product during the patent life, there is no infringement of the patent. The infringement of the patent only takes place if there is marketing of that product during the patent life. So developing a generic product or a product which is still under patent was permitted under the Bolar exemptions. Now, because of this, the development of the ANDA products became easier and faster. So during the patent protection period, the companies will develop the generic product. They will submit it to the US FDA for approval. The US FDA may approve it, but the marketing will start only after the expiry of the patent period. So because of that, the developmental time and the approval time could be during the period when the product was still under patent protection. So this was a huge benefit to the generic companies, and they started developing their product during the patent life of the innovator product. Now the problems which existed before the Hatch-Waxman Act were, there were problems for both the branded as well as the generic companies. For the innovator companies, there used to be long approval processes by the US FDA, resulting in very little patent life left after the approval of the product. So out of the 20 years of the patent life, a good time period of 13, 14 or 15 years used to be lost during the approval process. And the innovator companies would obviously be left with only a few years to make money out of their product after it has been approved. So this was the issue that was identified for the innovator or the branded company. And for the generic companies, the approval pathway was arduous and expensive, because even for the generic product, there was a requirement of conducting the clinical trials. Hatch-Waxman Act tried to address both these issues so that the things can become more lucrative both for the innovator companies as well as the generic companies. Hatch-Waxman Act tried to balance the innovation, competition, and affordable prescription drug. So how they helped the innovation? They gave protection to research, restored some of the patent term lost during the drug development and approval process. And for the affordable generic products, they fostered generic drugs, ANDA process, and ability to use patented technology in seeking FDA approval was allowed. So all this lead to better competition in the market. And once the competition is there, obviously the drug pricing is going to be affected. More the competition, lesser would be the price of the products in the market. That is why Hatch-Waxman Act is also called as Drug Price Competition and Patent Term Restoration Act of 1984. Now, in the Hatch-Waxman Act, what was in store for the innovator companies and the generic companies is captured on this slide. For the innovator companies, there was patent term extension. It provided for new drug product exclusivity, what we also know by the name of data exclusivity. And we'll discuss this slightly later. There are different types of data exclusivity which exist. And there used to be a 30 months stay for the ANDA approval in the case of paragraph 4 certification ANDAs. This is also something which we are going to discuss later. While for the generic manufacturer, the Hatch-Waxman Act created an abbreviated new drug application approval process for the generic versions of innovator drugs. And the generic companies could file ANDAs with the bioequivalence data using the innovator product. And there was also a provision of 180 days exclusivity for first to file product with paragraph 4 certification. And then there was provision of certification regarding each patent listed in Orange Book for the product. There were 4 certification options. Obviously, we are going to discuss this slightly later. What are these 4 certification options and what is the Orange Book? This slide shows how the patent term restoration is carried out under the provisions of the Hatch-Waxman Act. As we discussed, the patent term extension is to make up for the loss of time during the drug approval process. Application for patent extension must be filed within 60 days of the FDA approval of the drug product by the innovator company. The regulatory review period determination is carried out using this formula. So there are various phases, like there is IND submission, then there is testing phase, then there is NDA submission, followed by approval phase and the NDA approval. And the length of the patent extension was calculated 1/2 of the IND submission to IND approval plus NDA submission to NDA approval. So this used to be the formula, or this is the formula which is used by the US FDA to calculate the duration of the patent term extension, which shall be provided to the innovator company. There are certain conditions that need to be met. Maximum extension is for a period of 5 years. Total marketing exclusivity should not be more than 14 years, which means the total patent exclusivity period should not be more than 14 years. And each patent can be extended only once. Only one patent may be extended per pharmaceutical product. Obviously, there are a number of patents which are filed for every product, but the patent term extension could be given for only one patent per pharmaceutical product. The application for patent restoration is filed with the Patent and Trademark Office and not with the FDA. FDA's responsibility is to calculate the regulatory review period and convey it to the PTO, and also to assess PTO in determining the product's eligibility for patent term extension. So the Patent and Trademark Office is responsible for determining the period of patent term extension, which means the restoration or the extension of the patent is given by the Patent and Trademark Office, not by the US FDA, because it is not the job of the US FDA to give extensions on the patent. Patent is something which is in the domain of Patent and Trademark Office. The criteria for determining whether a patent for human drug product is eligible for patent extension or not is captured in this particular slide. So there are certain conditions that must be met. First one is that the applicant must show that the patent has not expired. The second is that the applicant must establish that the patent has not previously been extended. Third is the patent owner or its agent must submit an application for patent term restoration that includes details about the patent and the activities undertaken to secure the FDA approval. The applicant must establish the product was subject to a regulatory review period before its commercial marketing or use. the applicant must show that the product either represents the first permitted commercial marketing or use of the product after such regulatory review period, or represents the first permitted commercial marketing or use of a product manufactured under the process framed in the patent. The applicant must submit the application for patent term restoration to PTO within 60 days of FDA approval of the commercial marketing application. And who is going to do this? This is going to be done by the innovator company. So this is the overview of the process for obtaining the patent term restoration. So here is the approval of the new drug application. The innovator files application for patent term restoration with the PTO. So there is a communication between the PTO and the FDA, and the role of the FDA is to assess PTO in determining the eligibility of application for obtaining the patent term restoration, calculate the regulatory review period, notify the calculated regulatory review period to the PTO and applicant, and also to publish it in the Federal Register. Applicant can file due diligence petition within 180 days of receiving the notification, if not satisfied with the regulatory review calculated by the FDA. And then the PTO determines the length of the patent term restoration based on information provided by FDA, such that the total patent period after NDA approval does not exceed 14 years, which means the total period which is left in the patent life plus the restoration period, these two put together should not be more than 14 years. So if, for example, there are 10 years of patent life left and the patent term restoration is given for 5 years, then it becomes a total of 15 years. So this is not allowed, and the total approval or total restoration would be for a period of 14 years. Now we come to the discussion on what we had referred to earlier as data exclusivity. So there is one type of exclusivity which is called as marketing exclusivity, which is provided by taking a patent. However, this is a Hatch-Waxman exclusivity, also called as data exclusivity, which means that the clinical data which was submitted by the innovator company during the approval of the new drug application will be kept confidential by the US FDA for a particular time period. So this is the exclusivity on the data. It has nothing to do with the marketing exclusivity. So there are various types of exclusivity which exist under the Hatch-Waxman Act. And the first one is called as the new drug product exclusivity. In this, exclusivity provides approved new drug product holder limited protection from new competition in the marketplace for the innovation. This prevents filing, approval of 505(b)(2) applications or ANDAs for a prescribed period of time. And under this, the first type of exclusivity is called as new chemical entity exclusivity. So under the new drug product exclusivity, we have now different types of exclusivity. And the first one is for 5 years for the NCEs. So the NCE exclusivity runs from the time of NDA approval, and it bars FDA from accepting or reviewing any ANDA or 505(b)(2) application for a drug containing the same active moiety. So it blocks submissions of ANDAs or the 505(b)(2) application containing the same molecule which was approved under the new drug application. The important thing here is to remember that it prevents accepting as well as the reviewing. So the FDA will not even accept the applications. Forget about the reviewing. It will not even accept those applications that were part of the new drug application and are subject to the new chemical entity exclusivity. So it is 5 years if ANDA or 505(b)(2) does not contain a para 4 certification to a listed patent. But if there is a paragraph 4 certification to a listed patent, this exclusivity will reduce to 4 years. So it will be 4 years if ANDA is submitted containing a paragraph 4 certification to a listed patent. A new chemical entity as per 21 CFR 314.10108B is defined a drug product that contains no active moiety that has been approved by FDA in any other application under section 505B of the Act. So this is the definition of the new chemical entity. The second type of exclusivity is called as exclusivity for new clinical investigations for previously approved drugs, and this is for a period of 3 years, and it is granted for submission of reports of new clinical investigations other than bioavailability studies essential to the approval of the application and conducted or sponsored by the applicant. There are examples like new formulations, new salt forms, changed dosing regimen will fall under this category. Like for example, Opena ER, which is oxymorphone hydrochloride, it was converted from immediate release to the extended release dosage form. So this will be now applicable for new clinical investigation exclusivity of 3 years. New clinical study exclusivity runs from time of the NDA approval. The exclusivity bars FDA from approving. Here the wording is not accepting or reviewing. It is only approving. For a period of 3 years any ANDA or 505(b)(2) application. It blocks only the approval and it does not block acceptance and review of the application. Some other provisions in the Hatch-Waxman Act which are important for a generic company are it allowed for generic drug labeling carve-out, which is under section 8, which is also called as skinny labeling. Now, label carved out omission essentially involves a situation where the ANDA holder need not seek approval for all the indications for which the reference listed drug product has been approved. Which means if there are say 10 therapeutic indications for which the new drug application was approved, it is not necessary for the generic company to get approval for all the indications. Why? Because some of the indications might be still under patent protection and the generic company can obtain approval only for those indications which are not protected by the patent. So instead of the 10 therapeutic indication, they will take approval only for 8 indications. And this is called as skinny labeling, which means on their label, instead of 10, there will only be 8 indications now. For example, if the RLD has been approved for hypertension and angina pectoris, and if the indication for hypertension is protected by patent, then the applicant could seek approval for only angina pectoris as the indication. And the applicant here means the abbreviated new drug applicant. The FDA will then approve this carve-out statement only if there is no overlap between the proposed label submitted by the generic drug maker and a use described in the Orange Book, and the removing of information from the claimed method of use from the label does not render the drug less safe or effective. The carved out labeling requirements are labeling including the container label and package insert proposed for drug product must be same as the labeling approved for the RLD, except for certain differences. Such differences between the ANDA applicant's proposed labeling and labeling approved for the RLD include the omission of an indication or other aspect of label protected by a patent or accorded exclusivity under the FDC Act 505J5D. Then there is a data exclusivity or Hatch-Waxman exclusivity for orphan drugs, which is for a period of 7 years. So orphan exclusivity is granted to drugs designated and approved to treat diseases or conditions affecting fewer than 2 lakh in the US. It runs from the time of approval of the NDA. Orphan exclusivity bars FDA from approving any application ANDA 505(b)(2) or full NDA for the same drug for the same orphan disease. FDA may approve applications for the same drug for indications not protected by the orphan exclusivity. Then there is another type of exclusivity which is called as the pediatric exclusivity, which is for a period of 6 months. This is a special type of exclusivity which is given to the new drug applications or the NDA holders. Pediatric exclusivity is the only exclusivity that runs from the end of the other exclusivity protection. New drug product and orphan drug or patent protection, and blocks the approval of 505(b)(2) or ANDA, which means the pediatric exclusivity will start after the latest of the exclusivity expires. So if it is the patent life which is expiring the latest, it will be added on to that patent life for another 6 months. It grants an additional 6 months of market protection at the end of listed patents and or exclusivity for sponsors drug products when the sponsor has conducted and submitted pediatric studies on active moiety in response to a written request made by the US FDA. So if the US FDA writes to an innovator company that you please conduct clinical trials on the pediatric population for this molecule, and in response to that, the company conducts the clinical trial, then this exclusivity will be given. If the company has conducted the pediatric clinical trials on their own without a written request by the US FDA, then they are not eligible for the pediatric exclusivity. A 6-month pediatric exclusivity that attaches after a patent term is not a patent extension. It is a FDA enforced exclusivity period that begins at the termination of the patent. Patent exclusivity does not stand alone, and it attaches only to an existing exclusivity or patent. So these are some of the important aspects related to the pediatric exclusivity. So here is an example of the Orange Book. So Orange Book is a book which is published by the US FDA, and it contains information about all the patents for the products that have been approved by the FDA. So Orange Book listing showing addition of pediatric exclusivity to both all listed patents and exclusivity. This is an example of Teva Borol solution 5%, and you can see the patent expiration was in May 26, and after the pediatric exclusivity it has now become 11/26, means now it is November 26. So this is the way the pediatric exclusivity is attached to already existing patents. So this slide captures a very important piece of information, that is the difference between the data exclusivity and marketing exclusivity. So we'll consider this under several headings. So what does it mean? So data exclusivity means innovators' data of safety and efficacy is treated as confidential during this period, which means the clinical trial data will be treated as confidential. Whereas marketing exclusivity period means exclusive marketing rights to the innovator during this period, which are given by the patent application. What does this imply? FDA cannot accept or approve ANDA or 505(b)(2) application during this period, even though the marketing exclusivity period might have expired, which means the patent might have expired, but still, if there is data exclusivity, the US FDA will not accept or approve the product. While under the marketing exclusivity during this period, generics cannot be marketed even though they may be approved by the regulatory agencies after the completion of data exclusivity period. It commences from the date of approval of the NDA, and it commences from the date of filing of the patent. It is granted by the regulatory agencies, for example, US FDA, while it commences from the date of filing of the patent, and the granting agency is the US PTO. The period of the data exclusivity and marketing exclusivity may or may not overlap. So if there is an overlap, and if both of them are running parallelly, then obviously you will lose some time period of a particular type of exclusivity. So this is the overall slide that now captures various aspects that we had discussed in today's class. So it talks about the relative timing of patent protection and regulatory approval. So this is the date of filing of the patent at year 0. And as you know, the patent is for a period of 20 years. So the original patent term of 20 years is up to this. So this is the marketing exclusivity period. So at some time point, the IND would be filed, and then the NDA would be filed, and then the new drug application will be approved. So this is the period where the product has been approved for marketing. And this is also called as the marketing approval. So once the marketing approval takes place, the period of data exclusivity like NC will start for 5 years. Then data exclusivity for new indication will start for 3 years, and orphan drug exclusivity will start for 7 years, depending upon which category of case your product belongs to. It will now become applicable for the data exclusivity. And you can see this data exclusivity is running parallel to the patent or the marketing exclusivity. So which one is expiring later? Here in this case, the patent exclusivity is expiring later. So the company will get benefit of the marketing exclusivity. And on top of these exclusivity, there could be possibility of 6 months pediatric exclusivity being attached, which is shown by this red color. And this pediatric exclusivity can also get attached to the patent. Now, after 20 years, this is the patent term restoration, which was given by the USPTO after the US FDA calculated the patent term restoration period. And on top of it, you can attach the 6 months of pediatric exclusivity. So the effective patent life will now become almost 23.5 years. Instead of 20 years, it has now become 23.5 years. So this is the advantage that the innovator company get out of this patent term restoration and data exclusivity. Sometimes it is possible that the approval takes place somewhere here, say at the 17th year, and then 5 years will get added from that time period. So the total will become then 22 years, because this will be the later exclusivity which expires. So the company will get the benefit of the data exclusivity, while in the example which has been shown here, the benefit is coming from the marketing exclusivity only. So initially it was for 20 years, then there is a patent term restoration, and then there is 6 months of pediatric exclusivity. So making it a total of 23 years and half, 23.5 years. So this will be the effective patent period during which the product can be sold, because this is the point of approval of the drug product. So this will now become the marketing exclusivity period. So this is how the innovator companies are benefited by the provisions that have been given in the Hatch-Waxman Act. That is the patent term restoration and data exclusivity. So in the next class, we'll discuss about the abbreviated new drug application pathway.